Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Well, here we are.
Okay, can you introduce yourself? Because I actually do not know you like that.
Oh, good. I'll introduce myself. I hope you do the same. So,
Yeah.
my name is Emnet. By the way, who's our audience? I kind of don't know.
I see 78 people watching.
Okay.
I see a lot.
I didn't know if it's Eritreans, English, whatever that is. That was my inquiry. Let's get to it. My name is Emnet. I am Eritrean American residing in New York City. Yeah, that's my introduction. What about you?
Yeah, my name is Rahel, weldeab. I am residing in Sweden, Lund, Sweden to be precise. And I'm Eritrean.
Oh, good. So first and foremost, I wanted to thank you for inviting me here. I think a lot of your colleagues don't really step up to this, and I feel like this is a very healthy dialogue to go in between the diasporas. There's also people inside the country. So I applaud you, although I don't agree with any of your ideology. I do appreciate your courage for coming in today. With that said, today's topic, let's get to it. So I hope you, since you invited me to your platform, kind of go your way, and then I'll continue. And I'm hoping that we get to ask questions, and then we take some commentaries from the audience.
All right. I'm not exactly sure what the topic is because it's confusing to
Okay.
me. You tagged me on a post that said that members of PFDJ are equivalent to white Americans and members of white PFDJ as well, because we have no empathy, and that we're psychological narcissists.
Psychopaths. Yeah. Psychopaths. Narcissism. Yeah. That's the word used for people. Go ahead.
No, I understood it in the context of what's going on a global scale, and that's the Black Lives Matter movement.
Sure.
I think what you were doing, but you can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I think there's plenty of things to debate on Eritrea, and hopefully we get to do this more often. If this ends in a positive way and people wanted to see more of this. I tagged you on the post. I simply can't really wrap my head around it on people who die hard support the regime in Eritrea and or just kind of remain silent and pretend like, yeah, we know the problem, but we don't really speak in regards to the issue. My apologies for that. However, now they're chanting Black Lives Matter. You yourself kind of consider as someone, a feminist, and someone who stands for Black people in Africa or everywhere else. But I don't really hear much about the actual human rights in Eritrea. And now here you are offering an echo Black Lives Matter. So it's just kind of like a very hypocrisy at its finest. So that's why I tagged you. That was the discussion. And hopefully today that will be about it. If we have plenty of time, we can go in everywhere else. If there are other topics you want to debate about in the future, I'm more than happy to do it. But that's the reason I tagged you. So I wanted to kind of hear your part, and then I'll go after you.
Okay. So, like, you don't know me, right? You just kind of tagged me on different tweets, and
let me correct this. I do not know you personally. That's a fact. Like, you don't know me personally, but you've appeared in plenty of interviews, and you've appeared in plenty of open forum discussions. So just like any other common person, I've watched some of your interviews. I've read some of your contribution. So that's the level of knowledge that I have. If you'd ask me if I know you personally, I don't. From what you've represented, things that are in public, I might have learned one or two things about you, And if I make a comment and they're incorrect, here you are. You can defend yourself.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. So I guess you are kind of judging my character or what I do and don't do from the several times I've been on Al Jazeera English and what I tweet. I am a person who has worn many hats throughout my life, and that is why I tweet things about Eritrea, Black Lives Matter, all the above, right? But what I do in my personal life is more dynamic than what I do on social media. And so I guess that's why you cannot judge me on the many of other things that I do. But besides that, I am not only active in Eritrean community affairs, but also in things related to anti-racism and feminism.
Sure. So I don't know if that answers the questions to what originally brought the debate, is that, yeah.
The hypocrisy. I think you're talking about the hypocrisy, right?
So obviously we live in two different countries. I don't know what you do on your Saturdays or your free time. Neither do you. So we can't debate on what you do on your free time. I see you on social media and the things that you have contributed that's public. I can only judge you from that. So the judgment on your free time, you can't make that argument. I can't make that argument about myself, or I can't make that argument about you as well. So to get on that topic of how do people who support the regime in Eritrea can confidently say Black Lives Matter? That's it. Like, that summarizes all of it. Now you can deny saying that I don't support the regime in Eritrea, or you can say there is no regime in Eritrea, or you can say there's no feminism issues in Eritrea. You can start from there.
I'm not going to say any of those things because they're not true. That's it. I mean, you don't like.
So you do admit there's a regime. Okay, so go ahead.
No. I'll say what I'll say, and
okay.
I'm not going to be pressured into insinuating anything. The reason why
what would be insinuated at this case? I mean, let's just put everything on the table.
At what gaze? The gaze that you're kind of judging me from, because of
let's put aside my judgments. Let's ask the question. People who support the regime can't just say Black Lives Matter, because that's just hypocrisy.
No,
so make the case. Make the case.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Eritreans are.
Neither do I.
Sorry, what?
Okay. Neither can I. You said the same thing, so I agree with you. I can't believe you're going to defend that, but I will listen to you.
Defend what? That I'm Black?
No. I just asked you a question. How do you support a regime that represses Black people and then chant Black Lives Matter?
What you're saying is just kind of filled with, with a lot of insinuations and baggage. This whole idea of supporting a regime versus supporting your country, tweeting things that show Eritrea in a positive light. I'm an Eritrean citizen who has lived there for a very long time. I do not wish to see anything bad happen in the country, and throughout my life, especially my adult life, I have done things to try to make things better, recognizing the challenges and playing my part to, kind of fix these challenges. And that's it, It's for me, it's very simple. It's very simple. Despite any type of grievances I might have towards the government or anything like that, I'm still an Eritrean at the end of the day, and I'm still Black, and so I can absolutely say Black Lives Matter, and I will continue, of course, to do what I do, and that is to engage, to try to play my part. I do have limited resources to do that. I wish, I could do more. I think about that all the time, because I have a desire, not only a desire, there's something that is at stake for me when it comes to Eritrea's development and progress. And so, yeah, that's it. I don't hop on, certain bandwagons to do, Twitter campaigns or whatever people do when they're not actually doing things on the ground. Because I have a stake. I love my country. I love my people. And that does not mean that that everything is perfect in Eritrea, right?
Okay.
And in fact, because I recognize that, that's why I do the things that I do, not just in terms of my free time, but also when it comes to work-related stuff.
Okay. So actually, let's get to the point where you've said, I've lived in Eritrea. I have done what I can, and you're continuing to do with whatever limited resources that you have. So actually, as I was, I'm sorry, I didn't really prepare that much for this interview, but if I'm not mistaken, that you were Eritrean, you were an Asmara University Students Council member?
Yes, I was.
Okay. So, and I think on your Twitter a while back, I've seen you post that you've served the national service.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Number one, I want to thank you for doing that. Number two, my question is, as you being a member of the council and also an Eritrean, someone that served in the national service, number one, I want to ask you, when did you start? Just tell us about your experience. When did you end? You as a woman who calls herself as a feminist, what was your experience? Have you felt any sexual aggression or share of power, leadership? No, let's get. I listened to you, so I have a question.
All right. Let
me get to it. Let me get to it. I've listened to you, and I try not to interrupt. And I saw the comment. I was interrupting you too much, so I kind of have to listen to you. So you do the same. I hope you return the favor. So if you have done this and you've gotten the opportunity to do this, what was your experience compared to the average Eritrean? Because a lot of the people that I interact with that have gone through Sawa and I have shared their experience, they've dealt with a lot. And in any of your platforms, I often ever hear you the detailed, gruesome things that happen in national service. Seriously. So, one, tell us your experience. When did you start? When did you end? How your experience was different than the rest of them? Where were you stationed? What did you do? Number number three is that as a student council member, what have you done for the women? What have you contributed to say the least? Like I have done this to raise the issues that goes on because I don't care how amazing our country is. Every country has an issue about feminist issue, all many other things. So you can't really say, it would be insanity if you say Eritrea is free of those things. So
yeah,
if we,
I never
so
did.
I didn't say that you did. I didn't say that you did.
Okay.
So my question is, what have you specifically said? I mean, you're boasting about the things that you've done. So what have you specifically done to deal with that?
Okay. I didn't think this was going to be like an interview about me, but I can go for it. So in the year 2000, I had finished the 11th grade. And as we were finishing, in fact, I can't remember exactly when I did the matriculation exam, but it was very much close to Salsa Warar, right? The third offensive. And because I had finished high school, the natural, protocol time for me to go do my ta'aleem, my military service was at that time. But since it was at the same time of the third offensive, instead of going directly to Sawa, we went to Gahtalai. Actually, as women, we're based in Demas, a place called Demas. Because there was this big, I don't know how you call it in English, kitet, mass sort of mobilization of people. Even the university students at the time had decided that they wanted to go to the front line, and the government was like, no, you can't go to the front line. Okay, then we all went to Gahtalai, basically. Gahtalai,
Sure.
in a swim work, especially on the part of Damas. We were there for about like 6 weeks, I think. And then the university students went back to school. And then us who had just finished high school, especially us women, we went to Sawa to finish out our military service. All in all, I was there for, I think, about 4 months, give or take maybe like a week. And that was because I had passed the matriculation exam in order to do a degree program at the University of Asmara. During the first year of that I was a freshman, myself and several other freshman students, right, were elected to be representatives of the student council. I believe that's the student council you're talking about. Eventually, there was a controversy about the ma'atot service, whether or not university students should do ma'atot. And yeah, that was also at the time of 2001 when, all the controversy happened in terms of like the press being closed down and G15 going to being arrested. So that's basically the sum of what I did as
so just to kind of be like more productive on the conversation, just like in short answer, how many years did you serve?
The military part.
Both altogether.
I was actually called up to do some more military service in 2007.
Just
so
all together, just all in all.
I have to count it. Hold up. I think I did like around 8 months of military service altogether, and then soon after that I was demobilized in 2007 or 2008. So let's say around 7 years, 7 or 8 years.
So you joined, your first draft was what, 2000?
Yeah.
You joined 2000. Okay. So you did that, and then you were still in service up to 2007.
No, I was, I think it was 2008. I was demobilized.
2008. Okay. So in that period, how many of those years did you live in Asmara? Would you consider that's more than 50%? It doesn't have to be precise.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
Probably
So, okay. And your family being in Asmara as well?
Yeah, I do have relatives, of course, who were, in Barantu and stuff doing the...
Sure. The point that and then you ended at 2008? Were you dismissed?
See,
were you dismissed, discharged, ended formally? What has given you the difference? Because most people don't have the privilege to end the service of their terms, leave, and then come back to the country peacefully without some retribution, where they have to do some other things. So what have you, the point that I'm trying to make is that
the problem, let me tell you, the problem with your question though, is that you are making this grand assumption that, that there's something different about me compared to other people.
Absolutely is. If you can't, it's like the white people saying, I don't see racism because I'm not racist. That's what you're saying. I don't see a problem with the indefinite national service. I don't see the women, what they're going through, because I'm not affected by it. That's hypocrisy. That's what I call a hypocrisy. Your experience of national service is remotely the 1% of the people that are in national service. So you have to recognize your privileges that you've had and admit the rest of the 99% of the country isn't suffering, and you have done very little to be very vocal about it. And that's the hypocrisy. There's a government that it is. So if you can't say this is what my peers are going through, and because my colleagues and my friends that have been at Aspire University, that have been stationed with me, this is what they went through. Although
what about them? What about them? People who are, Asmara University, what did they experience that, was so different than me? Like, what you're talking, in fact, when you talk about those of us who, had the privilege, right?
So let me answer. Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question for you.
Education, while our brothers and sisters were, in the front lines. Yeah, that's where our privilege lies. It's not Rahel's privilege. That's our privilege. Okay. But let me finish. You're trying to differentiate. You're trying to make a distinct difference between the time that I did my military service in my national.
No, I'm not.
And then
I'm not. I'm merely, I think one thing you have to do is don't take my few words and patch of it. And I'm gonna be very clear in one sentence. I'm not trying to dissect here, I'm just trying to get the assessment. What was your experience like? Because from, with that, I want to point out your experience is completely different than the rest of others. So you can't really say,
that is not true. That is not true. That's not true.
So
let me finish. Let me just make a point, okay? So the reason why I, like many other people at the time, were actually demobilized, right? We received our demobilization card was because after the war, and within the kind of post-conflict package where the development and the UN peacekeepers came in, there was a demobilization program that was co-funded with the World Bank. And those of us from 13th round and earlier who had finished our education, we were demobilized. But after that, I continued to serve my country within the capacity that I had at the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students. I had also been a volunteer and one of the co-founders of a, let me call it like a network of young Eritrean women professionals. I had been elected by my peers to be a youth representative for the, what you call in English, youth workers. I had been elected by my peers as a member of the Central Council of the National Union of Eritrean Youth and Students, and what you call a unit leader for the PFDJ branch at Hamamata. That was my local work, right? Internationally, I have served as one of the vice presidents of the Pan-African Youth Union, as the one of the continental representatives of the World Federation of Democratic Youth. Shoot, I was a member of the International Steering Group for the United Network of Young Peace Builders. I've done a lot of things. I've been serving a lot, all right? And even though my sort of
a lot for a dictator.
For my country, Hijiwin, even now, okay? Even though my kind of permanent address was in Asmara, I have worked and visited all parts of Eritrea. In fact, I tell people that there's only 2 towns that I haven't really spent enough time in, and that's Golij and Hajar. But yeah.
So
I've been
I mean,
a lot.
let me tell you this. Actually, I got a good one to just stay. I'll tell you what I do. I'm more than happy to express that to you. The reason, and I'll give you a background about myself and why I feel the way I feel and why I challenged you about that. So I hear you. Actually, it was 2018 or 2019. You did an interview that I kind of pulled up to see for the George Arnold Symposium. You were talking about, just kind of,
Switzerland.
yeah,
Right?
okay. So yeah, actually, let's talk about that. This is a good context to give on why I call your work hypocrisy when you're chanting Black Lives Matter and ignoring the actual suffering of Eritrean youth. So you talked about building or encouraging African youth to have nonviolent resistance. You talk about resisting not just in protest form, but resisting anything societal that just hinders them from achieving what they want to.
Okay, that's not true.
Hello?
Okay.
This is your verbatim work. You want me to read it to you? I'll tell you what you said. We call a non-violent resistance, but not the resistance in terms of going out and protest like that, but the resistance against the things in their society that hinders themselves and their community. Rethinking and reinventing sustainable peace and human rights and education practices. This is quote unquote exactly your words. So
What did I say?
Hold on. Let me finish this. So in that context of the video or the clip that you put out, what exactly does the youth of Eritrea have the ability to resist? What you talk about resistance, resisting any system that hinders them. Number one, what type of rights does an Eritrean youth have to resist anything other than to be a slave? Okay, so this is the hypocrisy we're against. Number two, an opportunity to resist anything that stands away already.
Is that, sorry, you broke up real quick.
I have given
Sorry,
enough.
you broke up.
Can you hear me? You're kind of frozen. Hello?
Yeah, no,
Are you frozen?
I think yours was frozen. I didn't, yeah. Now I can hear you.
Okay.
But
So
you're talking about how Eritrean young people can or cannot resist?
Yeah, so you're talking about building a platform for youth to resist any system that hinders themselves and the community, right? That's exact words that you put it. So it's out there on YouTube. Anybody can see it. I didn't add any word onto it. Again, to say the least, Eritrean youth has no room for them to resist any system that's hindering them, because there is a system that's hindering them and their community. So you talk about, hey, I'm trying to teach these Africans on how to resist non-violently, but the average Eritrean, you've done nothing for them to resist into a system, because number one, they will be dead if they resist, because at this point they would have just, what they do, they walk out, they leave the country. You have no empathy, and that's what I'm calling you out for. You have no empathy. You really can't really, I've never heard you talk about our refugees in Sudan. I've never heard you talk about our refugees in Ethiopia. I've never heard you talk about the refugees in Libya, the people that are drowning day in, day after, that are being killed by different people, the Sinai in Libya. I have yet to see you spend a significant amount of time to talk about their journey. In fact, in your 2011 interview, you moralized them, talking about these are people who migrate economically. Let's say, for your argument's sake, that they are leaving for economic issues, which I don't think they are. Actually, it's not a thing. I know they're not leaving because it's economic issues. You have no empathy to say, wow, my people are leaving. We must change something to keep them here. Rather, you speak of them with absolutely no compassion. We're not really like comparing what's right, what's wrong. It's about compassion, and that's what you lack. You have no empathy. You talk about, I did this and I did that, and I did this for Eritrean people. And that's listen, your work for a dictator, cannot be. No, if it was for your people, if it is for your people, you would talk about your people. Your people are suffering in Sudan. Your people are suffering in Ethiopia. So tell me, prove me wrong. When have you talked? So tell me, so I can be wrong and I will be quiet. So you can show me the times you've spent about the migration of Eritrea.
Like, if maybe I should, have a camera crew you know, do my own reality TV show so you can see what I talk about every time that, you know, I'm out and talking about this stuff.
Proof me. Send me
But
a link. What have you done? Tell me about the Libya. Let me talk about
okay, so
Sudan
just
refugees. So just tell me.
Google my name. I think you
I
already been
did.
doing some Googling, all right?
I
So
did.
there was
I did.
the,
And that's why I'm asking you, because I didn't see it.
okay, okay, maybe you just need to look a little closer. Or maybe there's not enough video coverage, but
No,
there
just
is
tell us. Tell us which platform that you've expressed this. So we all, because we are all out of
all right, hold up. I'll tell you. So there's this migrant memory project that was organized by the Kunsthal in Malmo. You can check that out. I talked about this issue, in fact, with a world-renowned refugee activist. There was this other like roundtable talk too. I'll send you the links. I'll send you the links where you can, you know, deconstruct what Rahel is doing and not doing every time that she spends her day fighting for people. Now, just tell me, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's not talk about me so much.
Okay.
I never expose myself like this. I never talk about myself this much, but you're forcing me to. I want to hear about you. Who is Emnet?
Okay. Great question. So I came to this country when I was a teenager. I, like yourself, was born in Addis as well. I've never lived in Eritrea.
I was not born in Addis. I was not born in Addis.
Where were you born?
I was born in Saudi Arabia.
Okay. So I live in New York City. My day-to-day life outside of my work is pretty much occupied in helping. So in America, in the current administration, a lot of asylum seekers are in detention. So there's about 700 Eritreans who are currently in prison because the immigration system has changed. It's not allowing them to seek asylum. These people have no lawyers. They have no family support system. Nobody knows where they are. From not only finding lawyers for them, which is very difficult to find a lawyer that's going to be able to take their case, to the point following up with their case, having them to be out there. When they leave, they have no money, they have no place to stay. Most of them suffer from mental health, finding an apartment, being their friends, getting them out of prison, finding them a job. I spent a significant amount of time working with different professionals to get these people help. Not only that, I financially significantly contribute to refugees in Ethiopia and in Sudan. So
Great.
with that said, I speak with my time, and I support prisoners in Eritrea. I support people in Ethiopia. I don't talk the talk. I put my money, my time, everything that I have, again, just like you, with my limited resources, to the best of my ability. Because Eritrea, to me, without its people, is nothing. Eritrea, to me, is not just
we agree on a
waving
lot of
the flag. It's just not the flag. It's not just the shimsham or wearing the beautiful tribal clothes. Eritrea, to me, is the people. It's the people. When one Eritrean suffer, I suffer. When one Eritrean is inconvenient, I'm inconvenient. So I can't discount my people who are leaving this country by the numbers. When they come here into this country, they can't assimilate. Their education is poor. They have been in national service for the majority of their lives. They don't know how to assimilate into a civilized society. I saw our people.
Please, no, don't use the word like civilized society. Like, no. Let's avoid that colonizers speak.
Let. You know what? I'll make you happy. Let's skip that word. They have a hard time adapting to the new country system. I'll use a better word. Thank you for your correction. So when they do come here, they have a hard time simulating because they have been in so much trauma. So much trauma.
Yes.
None of you, PFDJ, YPFDJ, have ever spent extensive amount of time vocalizing for them. You talk about, I do so much for my people. What have you done for them? What have you done for them? You say, oh, I was counted for this council. I'm doing with them. I'm not a member of any council, but myself, as Emnet, I do everything to the best of my ability to help. If it is 1, 2, 10, 100 Eritreans, I will do that until my last breath on this earth. And then
Well, we're
again
doing
and
the
again.
same thing. We're doing the
I
same
don't.
thing.
No, we're not. We're not. I
Hold on.
don't discount. I don't discount my
Neither do
brothers.
I.
These people. You just did, my love.
But
2011, or you interview Alec Wick, just was mind blown by your
she,
unfazed, morally depleted, and like no empathy to your own people. And she's not even Eritrean, but she shares the same story of refugee. And you
yeah.
just kind of said, oh, just like anyone else, Eritrea also suffers from migration, just like everybody else. Do you understand how that is such a disgusting and the outrage people came after you? It's not about people trying to hate you. People would try to hate you if they know you. They don't know you, so they can't hate you. But they're disgusted by that comment that you've made that sounded like you have no empathy. If you had an
Okay.
empathy, you would phrase it saying, yeah, we're going through this and we hope for a better change. But you just say Eritrea suffers from the same thing that the rest of Africa does, and these are like economic migrants. It's
Let me
preposterous
let
and
me
morally
give,
just deficient.
okay, let me explain the context of the comment that I made, right? I never saw the show. I didn't
What?
know what it was about. I did not that was before being on Al Jazeera, the stream the first time. I never saw I never seen the show. I didn't know what it was about, right? And I was
Sure.
told that it was a platform where people talk of um, how people basically use the internet for different things. And I was under the impression, in fact, that I was going to be discussing that. I was slightly ill prepared. I was a young person living in Eritrea, right? I've never been like, I don't have that experience of a refugee. So let's just keep that on the table. And what I was saying
Neither did I.
was that what I was implying was like people that people like me, right, Eritreans and all Africans basically living in the continent, there is a desire to go to the West. We are part of a globalized world where we want to travel and do things, and that was misinterpreted for me saying that people are actually. What I was trying to imply was that we're part of a globalized world, but she had misinterpreted to say that I thought that people were leaving for because of iPads and what have you.
So
And the reason
let's
why
give you the opportunity to just kind of recant that and just kind of redeem yourself from what people misunderstood. Do you think people left because they have economic reasons? It's just a yes or no.
absolutely, I think they left because they have economic reasons to, they have the desire.
I think that's where we differ, and this is why I call you have no empathy,
Oh,
because Eritreans don't migrate. I can connect you to great Eritreans who've done extensive work on the Eritrean migrants. So in Eritrean history since the 1960s, a small percentage actually left for economic reasons. Majority of them were war displaced and conflict displaced and oppression. So that like small number you're talking about for leaving for economic reason can be a representative of the actual youth why they're leaving. Do you think the average Eritrean now in this peace era, alleged peace era, are leaving because they need better jobs? They simply just can't
yes,
live
I
their
do
life.
think. I think, yeah,
I,
their lives are very difficult. Their lives are difficult.
what?
No,
You're talking about like two contradicting things. Like, first,
no, I'm not.
why are their
The
lives?
problem. Let me tell you. Let me just explain something. The problem with your analysis on about the situation is you want to keep it black and white, right? You want to keep it, very distinct from each other. Eritreans from around the world, we are very dynamic people. We have different reasons. We have different backgrounds, and so I cannot, blanketly state that all Eritreans leave for economic reasons or all Eritreans leave for political reasons. I cannot say
Give.
true.
I think when you and if you go back and ask many of your peers, people that went to school with you, people that lived, that know you intimately, or people that think they know you intimately, if you'd ask them, or just kind of like randomly ask any recent arrival to Sweden. If you ask them, you're not like a government official or anything like that, so they might be honest with you and say, "Well, have you left?" I don't think any of them would ever tell you, because I came here because I want to have a car and a house. They would tell you because it just became impossible. Can I finish? They would tell you because it was impossible for them to pursue their lives. And, and for the longest, we've been held hostage for many, many reasons the government has given. And I think you and all PFDJs just kind of have the attitude, the means justify the end. No means ever justifies the end for the number of youth that's just depleting. If you can't stop and realize the system we've created have made the entire, or I don't want to say entire, significant number of the youth to choose death, water, being raped, being slaved, being killed, being tortured, than to stay in their land, there's a problem. So I'm sorry if I'm not highlighting the positive of that system. So it's the same argument. White people will say, well, Black people have had rights since the 1960s. The Civil Rights Act have been on, and I'm not a racist person, so I don't think racism does exist. That's their argument, because they consider themselves, they're not racist. So you say, well, I know there's a system, but I just have to share the positive side of Eritrea because I love my country. That's just preposterous. This is why I think PFDJ and white racist people run in peril, because they only look at the world and their window. They never see themselves on the oppressed side. They never see themselves as a Black person. They never see themselves as a human being who's lost their rights. You run yourself, oh yeah, there's a system, I acknowledge that. However, these are the things. The means does not justify the end, my dear. It just doesn't. And if we have a system,
let me just explain something. Half of the YPFDJ branch where I live are made up of newcomers, right? A good chunk of YPFDJ Sweden are people who left through the Libya and all that type of stuff. We talk about these things at our
I'm sorry,
meetings.
can you repeat that? You said half of the people in YPFDJ are people that left through Libya? Did I get that right?
Libya, Israel, the usual routes.
Okay.
Yeah, please don't, go trying to look at their photos and try to get them arrested. I know some of y'all like to do that type of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just come. But no.
Okay, say it. You can't just come in.
Say what? You cannot.
I want to finish.
I'm sorry?
That's Lily.
Oh, so you want to talk about the people that are having people arrested? You're referring to that? You want me to finish that sentence?
Yeah.
Okay. I simply agree that you can't come to a country and ask an asylum against the country you left of. For example, I, as an Eritrean, left Eritrea, came out here and said, here's what happened to me in Eritrea. And the government did XYZ to me. And then I get an asylum and I reside permanently, and I turn back around and support the regime that I allegedly claim that have given me to do that. That's absolutely preposterous. And even go further and threaten people. For example, in New York City, there's a gentleman by the name of Tasfa Ali. He is a young man who came to this country, I think about 5 to 7 years, don't know the exact numbers, spent 10 plus years in Shamalba, has spent a significant amount of time in Eritrea doing national service. So he's a big PFDJ member. As a matter of fact, he personally have physically attacked me when we approached the UN ambassador Sofia Tesfalem for questions. And this was there was a public event. We went because it was a public event, and we asked for a question, and he physically addressed me. So with that said, that same person turned back around to my own colleagues in Yaakil, asked and said, hey, my brother's in Mexico. You know I've been in prison in Eritrea. I've been, going through the whole thing. I know all this. I know what's happening, but I have a property in Eritrea. So we all know it's just kind of, we're doing the show and bow. So we know who you guys are. You are boasting in public and behind closed doors. Your brother is in migration. He's stuck in Mexico, can't come into this country, and he's seeking asylum because he's making a claim, oh, the Eritrean government has done this. Whereas his older brother is here making calls to people saying, are you coming to the meeting? If you don't, you support, you negate. I'm going to attack people and this and that and the other. You guys are flip-floppers. Like, you have no stand. A lot of them are doing this for personal benefits. He himself admittingly says, I'm just doing this not because I believe in the conviction, because I have a home in Eritrea and I want to go in and out of the country without an issue. Okay? And these are the same people that would say Black Lives Matter, because their lives of other Eritreans is irrelevant to them, as it is for you. It's irrelevant to you, the lives of Eritreans. However, you want to chant Black Lives Matter. That's just like getting in the wave and just say, I care about Black people, but the lives of Eritrean, that's just unfortunate.
Like, I don't just chant Black Lives Matter, just so you know. Like, I'm actually active in anti-racist things, so let's just get that straight. What you basically said to me, right, the fact that you basically agree with snitching is the exact case that
snitching.
Well,
snitching?
like yeah.
I think if we talk about that, let's talk about precisely 2015.
Let me just make my point real quick.
So if you call that snitching,
let me just make
okay,
my
go
point.
ahead.
Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
That is the exact same rhetoric that white majorities in North America and in Europe have. That only those who have been, prosecuted and therefore go against, whatever quote unquote shithole country that they come from, that they're the only ones that can claim asylum. And then if they don't agree with the, imperial colonial speak of, shit is better with there, and that's why we moved here, now we want to, then they are not welcome, right? And this is not just Eritreans, this is literally like Africans on Africa, right? Those from the Horn of Africa, they play the cards better than maybe those who come from West Africa. But they know that if they say certain things, that's the only way that they can have legally reside in the respective country, right? So the sort of takeaway or giveaway of that is that only those who are completely against the Eritrean regime have the right to be in the West. Mind you, a lot of members of YPFDJ are born in their respective country in the West, so they cannot be deported or whatever.
First you said they were from Libya. First you said they were from Libya. They came migrated. Now they were born.
No, I said half of the people that in the branch here are
here's what, like, which were you speaking of?
No, you don't need to collect information like that. See, this is why I think you're gonna try to.
No, Rahel, no, it's not collecting. Let me tell you this. I think I'm gonna call you out on your own bluff. 2015, you had an interview with Al Jazeera, and my dear friend of mine, who is also my classmate, Ephraim Tawalda, tweeted about his fear about his brother. You reached out to his employer, whom you've gotten information from the people in the PFDJ community where he works, and you try to get him fired. If that's not like snitching, you yourself is a snitch, because he objected your idea.
Repeat the name. No.
Ephraim Tawalda.
The guy that tweeted my address and telephone number so people can come to my house?
No, that's a public
that's exactly
information.
Who that guy was.
Oh, so what did he violate? What did he violate? You try to get him fired.
Tweeting my personal information so people can, go.
Honey, it's first and foremost, you reached out his employer.
No,
and you try to get him fired. And his employer found out there was nothing illegal that he did.
Oh.
It was everything.
Hold up. No. I could literally
So
show
talk
you
about snitching. Talk about snitching. The whole PFDJ the whole PFDJ lives in snitching.
He put my personal information, right, online in anticipation that somebody would come to my home and do whatever they want, right?
Personal information. Where did he get that?
I did not.
Where did he get that?
I got it from, I don't know, the internet.
Public information.
Okay.
So
No,
he didn't get anything. So you can't say he shared anything. That's a public information.
I would and then I didn't say anything. It was only when he had came into my DMs. I have the record somewhere where he said that he's going to make sure that I'm deported back to Eritrea because I illegally claimed asylum here, which was not the case. And
it is illegal if you claim. What was your asylum case? What was your asylum case?
See, that's our bullshit, right? Not every Eritrean is an asylum seeker.
So you said you just said that. You just said my asylum seeking. So you claimed 2 seconds ago.
Well, he said that, on Twitter after, putting out my personal information, he said that he was going to make sure that I get deported from Ethiopia, from Sweden to Eritrea because I had illegally made an asylum case. And then I didn't even say anything about it. I didn't say anything about the tweets, but then he came back on my DM and he was like, oh yeah, you didn't come, you didn't claim asylum. In fact, your husband's names is this, and this, yada, yada, yada. He had gotten all this crazy information about me, God knows what.
Public. Let's be factual there. He found it public information. So it's not really technically you're snitching. If you Google me, you'll find my home address. So that's a public information. So it's not snitching. So if you put, go ahead.
And then when he had done that, wondering how he got, I think he worked at the labor office or the wants me to get off this live. I hear you, Jonathan. It's almost over actually in terms of time. But anyways, he had gotten information through his employer or his employment, and that's how that shit went down.
He did not. I just explained to you. If he was, that's a lie, because let me tell you from the factual part, that's a completely lie. You yourself you said he got it from your employer, and that's absolutely a lie.
No.
Because if he did, you just said that. I think you just will say one thing and repeat something else completely different. You just said he got that information from his employer. Your own reach investigated him to see if he's gotten that information from his employment. Clearly, he didn't, and he was exonerated. So that's a lie. The statement you said 10 seconds ago that he got this information from his employer is a lie. You want to talk about snitching? You're the one who reached out to his employer about this. of
Yeah,
the
if people
information,
make, if
because
people,
if you
no,
if
I did
you
not reach out. Listen, if somebody is going to threaten my life, right,
how did he
I will of
threaten your
course
life?
contact the respective authorities. I did not
Which were
threaten his
the
life.
respective authorities, police,
Yes.
or employer? You contacted police?
Yeah, my husband did. He
Oh,
contacted
he
his.
contacted, and the police contacted how things went up.
Why are you taking notes, though? People don't want this conversation to continue the way that it is.
Yes,
That's why
I agree. I think we have
yeah,
gotten
because
off the
you're
topic.
sitting there taking notes. That's your
No,
job, right? Instead of saying Black Lives Matter, instead of
do you want to see
you're
this?
too busy
I'm on
taking notes.
Facebook. I'm on Facebook. So stop on a topic that you don't know. Taking notes,
Okay,
stuff.
how about we?
You just like rambling. To get back to the topic, and we have to wrap up. And I just want to make this conversation productive, and we gotten off the topic oftentimes. I think
We have like
it's
we have like 30 seconds remaining. We have 30 seconds
sure.
remaining.
You have it's preposterous, and I am really deeply disappointed. Oh, PFDJ
Emnet, do
members,
you?
why
Do you?
PFDJ members, of the
Do you?
lack of